Hey everyone, back with another episode of the How To channel. Today we're diving into a super practical skill every driver should know, how to jumpstart a car. Trust me, knowing this can be a lifesaver. It can save you time, money, and stress, especially when you're in a hurry. In this video, I'll break down the process into easy steps. We'll cover the essential tools and the correct way to connect jumper cables. So buckle up and let's learn how to jumpstart a car like a pro. Picture this. It's a Monday morning and you're already running late for work. You rush out to your car, hit the ignition, and nothing. Your heart sinks as you realize your battery is dead. You're stranded. We've all been there, or know someone who has. It's a frustrating situation that can really throw a wrench in your day. But fear not, my friend, because knowing how to jumpstart a car can turn this stressful scenario into a minor inconvenience. Instead of calling a tow truck or waiting for roadside assistance, you can take matters into your own hands and get back on the road in minutes. All you need is a set of jumper cables and another car with a working battery. Don't worry, we'll go over all of that in detail. By the end of this video, you'll be a jump-starting pro, ready to tackle any dead battery situation with confidence. You'll know exactly what to do, step by step, and you'll be able to help out your friends and family when their cars decide to throw a tantrum. So whether you're a complete beginner or just want a refresher course, stick around, and let's get you jump-starting like a champ. And hey, while you're at it, don't forget to show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing to the How To channel for more awesome and helpful videos. Now, let's dive into the good stuff and get you familiar with the tools of the trade jumper cables. We'll talk about the different types, how to choose the right ones, and how to store them properly so they're always ready to go when you need them. All right, jump-starting a car. First things first, you gotta have the right tools for the job. And the most important tool is a good set of jumper cables. Now, you can find these at any auto parts store and they're not that expensive. When choosing jumper cables, you want to make sure they're heavy duty with thick gauge wiring. Trust me, you don't want those cables heating up or even worse, melting while you're trying to jump your car. Look for cables that are at least 10 gauge or even better, 6 gauge for extra power. Oh, and make sure they're long enough to reach between the batteries of both cars comfortably. About 12 to 16 feet should do the trick. Having a good set of jumper cables is essential for a successful jump start. Section 2, safety first, always. Before we jump into the actual process, let's talk safety, people. Safety is paramount when working with car batteries. Those things pack a serious electrical punch, and you don't want to mess around with that. So first and foremost, make sure both cars are turned off completely. Remove the keys from the ignition just to be extra safe. Next, you want to make sure both cars are in park or neutral and that the parking brake is engaged. We don't want any unexpected rolling while we're working. And for your own safety, it's a good idea to wear safety glasses and gloves. Car batteries contain sulfuric acid, which can be dangerous if it comes into contact with your skin or eyes. Better safe than sorry, right? All right, now that we've got safety covered, let's move on to the next step. Section 3, checking your battery. Now, before we go connecting cables and whatnot, let's make sure it's actually your battery that's causing the problem. Sometimes it could be something else entirely, like a bad alternator or a loose connection. So take a look at your battery. Is it corroded or leaking? If so, you might need a new battery altogether. If it looks okay, check the battery terminals. Are they loose or covered in grime? If they are, grab a wire brush and clean them up. A little baking soda and water solution can help loosen up any stubborn corrosion. Remember, a good connection is crucial for a successful jump start. Once you've inspected your battery and cleaned the terminals, we can move on to the next step. Section 4, RTFM, read the freaking manual. I know, nobody actually reads their car manual unless absolutely necessary. But trust me on this one, it's worth taking a quick glance. Your car manual will have specific instructions on jump-starting your particular make and model. Some cars have specific jump points or procedures that you need to follow. For example, some cars have a positive terminal located under the hood, away from the battery. You don't want to accidentally connect the cables to the wrong spot and cause damage to your car's electrical system. So, take a few minutes to familiarize yourself with the recommended procedures for your car. It'll save you a lot of potential headaches down the road. All right, now that we've covered the preparation steps, let's move on to the fun part, connecting those jumper cables. All right, so you've got your jumper cables ready, you've checked your battery, and you're feeling good. Now it's time to position those vehicles. You want to park the car with the good battery, let's call it the helper car, close enough to the car with the dead battery so that the jumper cables can reach between the batteries. Seems obvious, right? But here's the catch. You don't want the cars to be touching, that's a big no-no. You could create a short circuit or even damage the electrical systems of both cars. So how close is too close? A good rule of thumb is to leave about 2 to 3 feet of space between the cars. That should give you enough room to maneuver the jumper cables safely without any risk of the cars bumping into each other. Now, you might be tempted to just park the helper car right behind the dead car, but that's not always the best idea. Remember, you'll be working with jumper cables, which have a limited reach. You want to make sure you can easily access the batteries of both cars without stretching the cables too tight. The ideal position is usually to have the front of the helper car facing the front of the dead car. This way, you can easily reach both batteries without having to crawl over engines or squeeze into tight spaces. Of course, you can adjust the positioning depending on the layout of your driveway or parking lot. Just use common sense and make sure you have enough room to work safely and comfortably. Once you've found the perfect parking arrangement, make absolutely sure that both cars are turned off completely. I know I mentioned this before, but it's worth repeating. Turning off the engines eliminates any risk of electrical surges or sparks while you're connecting the jumper cables. It's all about safety, people. And just to be extra cautious, engage the parking brakes on both cars. This will prevent any unexpected rolling while you're busy connecting those cables. Remember, safety first. You don't want any accidents or surprises. Once the engines are off and the parking brakes are on, you can pop the hoods of both cars. Use the hood prop to secure them in place so they don't come crashing down on you while you're working. Section 4. Double check everything. Before moving on to the next step, take a moment to double check everything. Are the cars in park or neutral? Are the parking brakes engaged? Are the engines off? Are the hoods securely propped open? It's always better to be safe than sorry, so take a few extra seconds to ensure everything is in order. This will give you peace of mind and help prevent any mishaps. Once you're confident that everything is set up correctly, you're ready to move on to the next step, connecting those jumper cables. Now this is where things get a little bit more technical, but don't worry, I'll walk you through it step by step. All right, folks, it's time to get down to business and connect these jumper cables. Now, before you go clamping anything, you need to know what you're looking at. Open the hood of both cars and locate the batteries. They're usually big black rectangular boxes with two terminals, a positive terminal and a negative terminal. The positive terminal is usually marked with a red cap or a plus sign, while the negative terminal is usually marked with a black cap or a minus sign. If you're not sure which terminal is which, consult your car's manual. It's always better to be safe than sorry, right? Once you've identified the positive and negative terminals on both batteries, you're ready to start connecting the jumper cables. Remember, it's crucial to connect the cables in the correct order to avoid any damage to the electrical systems of either car. Remember those red and black jumper cables? They're color-coded for a reason, people. The red cable is for positive, and the black cable is for negative. Always remember that. Red on positive, black on negative. Got it? Good. Now take the red jumper cable and connect one end to the positive terminal of the dead battery. Make sure the clamp is securely attached. You should hear a satisfying click when it's properly connected. Next, take the other end of the red jumper cable and connect it to the positive terminal of the good battery. Again, make sure the clamp is securely attached. Remember, positive to positive, red to red. It's like matching socks, but with a much higher risk of electrocution if you get it wrong. Section 3. Black to ground, not the battery. Instead of connecting the black jumper cable to the negative terminal, connect it to a grounding point on the car's frame or engine block. This prevents sparks and potential explosions. Look for a clean, unpainted metal surface. Securely attach the clamp. Section 4. Double-checking connections. Take a step back and admire your handiwork? Just kidding. Before you go anywhere near the ignition keys, double-check all of your connections. Make sure all 4 clamps are securely attached and that the cables are clear of any moving parts, like the fan blades or the drive belts. Remember, safety first. We don't want any cables getting caught in the machinery and causing a catastrophic engine failure. Once you're confident that everything is connected properly and safely, you're almost ready to start the engines. But first, let's talk about what to expect when you try to jump-start a car. Section 5. Ready to jump. With all the cables connected securely, take a deep breath and get ready for the moment of truth. But before you hit the ignition, let the helper car run for a few minutes. This will allow its battery to charge the dead battery a bit, making it easier to start the dead car. While the helper car is running, double-check that all the lights, radio, and accessories are turned off in the dead car. This will minimize the electrical load on the dead battery when you try to start it. All right, now it's time to try and bring that dead car back to life. In the next part, we'll cover the steps for starting the engines and hopefully getting you back on the road in no time. Don't touch that dial. All right, folks, the moment we've all been waiting for. With the jumper cables properly connected and the helper car running for a few minutes, it's time to try starting the dead car. Now, before you go turning any keys, make sure you're clear of any moving parts, like the fan blades or the drive belts. We don't want any accidents, especially now that we're dealing with a live electrical current. Safety first, always. Once you're in the clear, hop into the driver's seat of the dead car, take a deep breath, and get ready to crank that engine. Remember, this might take a few tries, especially if the battery is completely drained. Don't panic if it doesn't start right away. We've got some troubleshooting tips up our sleeve if things don't go according to plan. Okay, here we go. With your foot on the brake pedal, turn the ignition key to the start position and hold it there for about 5 to 10 seconds. You should hear the engine cranking over. If everything is connected properly and the battery has enough juice, the engine should sputter to life. Woohoo! Victory is sweet. Now, don't get too excited just yet. Let the car run for a few minutes with the jumper cables still connected. This will allow the alternator to recharge the battery a bit before you disconnect the cables. While the car is running, keep an eye on the dashboard gauges to make sure everything is working correctly. The battery light should be off, and the voltage gauge should be reading somewhere in the normal range. Now, let's be real for a second. Sometimes, even with the best intentions and a perfectly executed jump start, the dead car might not cooperate. Don't worry, it happens to the best of us. If the engine doesn't start after a few tries, don't panic. There are a few things you can check before calling for a tow truck. First, double-check all of the jumper cable connections. Make sure the clamps are securely attached to the correct terminals and grounding points. Sometimes, a loose connection can be the culprit behind a failed jump start. If the connections are good, try letting the helper car run for a few more minutes to give the dead battery a little extra boost. It's possible that the battery is just too drained to accept a charge quickly. Section 4. Don't give up just yet. If the engine still won't start after checking the connections and charging the battery for a bit longer, it's possible that the battery is completely shot and needs to be replaced. Or there could be another underlying issue with the car's electrical system, like a bad alternator or a faulty starter. In these cases, it's best to consult with a qualified mechanic to diagnose and repair the problem. But hey, at least you tried jump-starting it yourself first. You've gained valuable experience and saved yourself a potential tow truck fee. Now that you've successfully, hopefully, jump-started the dead car, it's time to move on to the final step, disconnecting those jumper cables safely. We'll cover that in the next part, so stick around. All right, so you've successfully jump-started your dead car, and it's humming along like a champ. High fives all around. But before you celebrate, we need to disconnect those jumper cables safely. Safety first. With both cars running, reverse the connection process, starting with the black negative cable. Remember, black to black, negative to negative. Loosen the clamp and carefully remove it from the grounding point. Now that you've disconnected the black cable from the dead car, move over to the helper car and locate the other end of the black cable, which should be connected to the negative terminal of the battery. Again, loosen the clamp and carefully remove it from the negative terminal, being careful not to touch any metal surfaces with the clamp or the cable. Remember, we're still dealing with live electrical currents here, so it's crucial to be cautious and avoid any potential hazards. With the black cable safely disconnected from both cars, it's time to move on to the red positive cable. Just like before, we'll start with the dead car and work our way back to the helper car. Locate the red clamp that's connected to the positive terminal of the dead car's battery. Loosen the clamp and carefully remove it from the positive terminal, making sure it doesn't come into contact with any metal surfaces. Remember, red to red, positive to positive. We don't want to mix up our colors now, do we? With the red cable safely disconnected from the dead car, move over to the helper car and locate the other end of the red cable, which should be connected to the positive terminal of the battery. Again, loosen the clamp and carefully remove it from the positive terminal, being careful not to touch any metal surfaces with the clamp or the cable. Congratulations! You've successfully disconnected the jumper cables without turning yourself into a human lightning rod. Now that the jumper cables are safely disconnected, take a moment to admire your handiwork. You've successfully jump-started a dead car. Pat yourself on the back, you've earned it. Make sure both car hoods are securely closed. Gather up your jumper cables and store them properly. Let the car run for at least 30 minutes to recharge the battery. And there you have it, folks. You now know how to jump-start a car like a pro. Remember, it's a simple process, but safety is key. Those cables can be dangerous if mishandled. Knowing this skill can save you time and stress. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more helpful tips. Until next time, stay safe and keep rolling.